Joining us now is Unleash Prosperity co-founder Steve Moore and My View with Lara Trump host Lara Trump. Welcome to you both. Good to see you. I'm going to start with Steve because I want to nerd out for a second on economics, if that's okay. Steve, the president said a lot in his speech about the economy, the U.S. economy, European economy. But the thing that struck me is he was telling Europe, you guys got to start committing to grow like the U.S. has, because that's the way that you get out of the morass we're in with inflation and affordability. It's growth, Steve. He was unapologetic about that. What did you think?
Well, I love the fact that he called what's happening an economic miracle because, Brian, as you know, I wrote a book at the start of the year. And by the way, it's great to be with Lara Trump as well. I wrote a book called The Trump Economic Miracle, and that's exactly what we have seen. And he spouted off the statistics. They're incredible. Incidentally, Brian, you may have seen that the Atlanta Federal Reserve Board did another their last estimate of fourth quarter GDP. Now they're up to almost 5.5% growth, which is a blockbuster number. We've got the inflation headed back to the 2% target. All-time highs on the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, and the Dow Jones. Gas prices, I just paid $2.79 a gallon. I mean, I could go on for a half an hour, Brian. I'll simply say we're doing it right. And what Trump basically said to the Europeans is, do it our way. Watch what we're doing. We're using the free enterprise system, free markets. We're not into this climate change crap and all that stuff. We're focusing on creating wealth and income for people. And it was a great message. And it was a fantastic day for this president. I love the speech.
You know, Laura, how do you think this America First agenda, as Steve just laid out, is being received at the World Economic Forum this year?
Well, Lisa, I'll just start by saying I'm only a little insulted that Brian didn't want to nerd out with me on economics next time I come back.
I wanted to nerd out with you. We're nerding out right now together.
But the whole thing, I've been nerding out all day on this, and I think the rest of America truly has as well, Lisa, because this is what people voted for. America is back, and all you had to do was watch that speech by President Donald Trump. He went in unapologetically, and he laid it out for all those people. And he even said to the people who, a lot of them were his supporters and people who helped fund his campaign, you guys aren't going to like this. That executive order you just heard him deliver there, you guys aren't going to like this. I don't really care because I'm doing what's best for the United States of America. And so, look, I think the people here at home loved it. I'm sure there were a lot of people there in the audience, maybe other world leaders who are probably shaking in their boots a little bit after receiving this president's message. But there's one thing that's been clear. Whether it's taking out the Iranian nuclear sites, whether it's capturing a monster like Maduro and bringing him here to the United States to, be brought to justice, this president means what he says, and he's there delivering the message that this country is the country that he's concerned about. And he also said, look, if things go well here in America, they're going to go well the rest of the world. So we want to see that happen, and we want everyone to succeed. I thought it was amazing.
Okay, so let's move on to this, you guys. President Trump today putting in perspective the staggering amount of fraud in America. Listen to this.
If we were able to cut out 50% of the fraud, 50%, and we should be able to do better than that, we would have a balanced budget without having to talk about even growth. So we have a lot of options, but we're working very hard on that. That's a big deal.
Okay, so guess what? With apologies, Steve, I'm going to go to Lara on this one because I want to nerd out with her a little bit now on fraud. I think President Trump is pretty close to being right when he says, look, if you got 50% of the fraud that we've got in America on an annual basis, it might not wipe out the whole deficit, but it would be a huge help. I think Americans want to see the government get aggressive on rooting this out, especially after Minnesota. Lara, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, Minnesota is a great example, Brian, as to why this is such a problem, because you see that every time you get the numbers from what's gone on in Minnesota, they continue to go up. This is why Doge about a year ago was so popular, and everybody said, thank God, finally someone is paying attention to this, because it kind of felt like for so long the government was almost just using monopoly money, and if there was fraud, they would just kind of like write it off and no one would do anything about it. Not this president, not this administration. He's taken it very seriously. He's saying, look, every taxpayer dollar matters, and whether that's that we're going to cut back our federal spending or we're going to root out the fraud, waste, and abuse, That's what we're going to do right now. We've got 3 more years to do it. And look, I think that this is another reason the American people absolutely voted for this president, because they knew if there was anyone who would actually address the matters that so many others have kind of just let go by the wayside, it was President Trump, and fraud is absolutely one of those spaces.
But, you know, Steve, to Laura's point, I mean, but you look at the opposition for Doge with the left and the media. I mean, there were people charged for throwing Molotov cocktails at Teslas and Tesla charging centers. So why such opposition to that? To fighting this fraud?
Because the left is funded by these fraud dollars that Lara was talking about. That, in fact, they want. Where is all the fraud coming from? It's the blue states, right? The blue cities. This is how they suck capital out of the pockets of taxpayers. And so Trump is right. We could substantially reduce the budget deficit, which, incidentally, guys, the budget deficit share of GDP is falling under Trump. It's falling, which is a great sign. But could I make one other quick point about something you said that was really important, Brian? You're a good economist, so you know this. You know, we've had this curse of this idea that somehow economic growth causes inflation. And what Trump said today, I love this. He said, no, growth and increasing the supply of goods and services bring prices down. And I love that, because all the economists are pulling their hair out because they've got the wrong view of how the economy works. But if you get a booming economy, prices fall, they don't rise. Reagan proved that, and now Trump is proving it as well.
The Phillips curve is dead, Steve Moore.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you.
2 of my favorite nerds, Steve Moore.